The Swan 42, designed by Erman Frers, was developed to provide high-performance sailing in a strictly controlled one-design class. As a result of the one-design restrictions on sails, gear, and equipment modification, this boat levels the playing field among competitors. The sailing skills that each team brings to bear will have the most impact on how each boat performs. As with any racing boat, the more time you spend sailing on it, the better your performance will become. As your team may not have had much time on the water in a Swan 42, this short video will offer tips on how to maximize performance around the racecourse. From start to finish, upwind and downwind, these tips and guidelines will help put you in a position to maximize your competitive abilities in these boats.
Away from the line a little bit. Away from the line a little bit.
During the pre-start, the two jib trimmers will typically stay at their positions until the final approach to the line. The traveler is locked into the center position until the final approach. This allows the main sheet to run more freely. If needed, a second person can trim on the free main sheet winch.
Dive down. Dive down.
Assuming a starboard tack approach to the line, usually the primary main trimmer stays to starboard, and the assistant is responsible for the port winch on the leeward side. On the final approach to the starting line, the main trimmer or an assistant should release the leeward main traveler line on their way up to the high side of the boat. Beware, in windy conditions and during a pre-start reach or at the start itself, you must be prepared to quickly ease the main sheet, vang, and jib sheet. As with any high-performance fins, the rudder can stall out in a sudden puff, leaving the helmsman with limited ability to maneuver until the pressure on the sails is eased. In a heavy air pre-start, you should consider leaving the vang released to improve your ability to ease the main sheet quickly and keep your boat under control. The Swan 42 seemed to perform well with a surprising amount of main twist. To induce this twist, the traveler should be well to weather, even in winds as high as 16 knots. Try to master the art of feathering up during a puff. You will be greatly rewarded for this. Try not to fight the puffs. Doing so may stall out the rudder. Easing the main will cause you to lose valuable ground to weather. The boat wants to naturally feather up in a puff, and it feels right when done correctly. There is very little feeling in the helm. The rudders are well balanced. As a result, just like a dinghy, the Swan 42 is best sailed to a heel angle. Think about sailing upwind in older, heavier racing boats. If you get greedy and pinch too much, the older boats will suddenly slam upright and slow considerably. These Swan 42s do not do this. Rather, they allow you to glide back down and only lose a few tenths of a knot if you overshoot. The sooner the foot of the jib can be flattened, the better. This really helps make the helmsman's job easier. To flatten the jib, the in-hauler is usually set close to the cabin top handrail. Crew weight distribution can really add to performance. In lighter pressure, roll tacking is a good technique to keep the boat moving through a tack. If the breeze comes up, or in heavy winds, don't forget to ease the jib in-hauler. This will help you power through waves and improve your VMG towards the mark. In a crossing situation, when the port tack boat needs to duck the starboard tacker, the main and vang will need to be eased. In breezy or tight situations, the jib will also have to be eased. Even with the main fully eased, the jib will backwind the front section of the main, stopping you from unloading the leech. This makes it difficult to turn down and can lead to collisions in tight quarters. It's also important to remember to completely ease the vang during the duck. In breezy conditions, as you approach the windward mark, it's a good idea for the main trimmer to be sure the main sheet and traveler lines are free to be eased and have not tangled in each other during the upwind part of the race. With all the confused air, the main sheet should not be in the self-tailer. It should be ready to be eased at a moment's notice. Many crews trim the chute from the primary winches. Within the last boat length on the starboard ley line, the hobble should be put on the jib. This will free up the winch for the spinnaker sheet.
All right, bear it away here, guys.
With many boats approaching the offset mark, there'll be a lot of disturbed air. Easing the jib in hauler will make the boat easier to steer in the confused breeze. It's important to remember the Swan 42's class rules prohibit the sprit from being extended until the bow of the boat is past the weather mark. Some boats ease the vang when turning downwind as a precautionary measure. Smooth, deliberate movement of the rudder is the best way to remain in control. If the breeze is up, there's no rush to get the jib down.
A little bit, hold that right there. You guys aren't over trimmed, right?
The crew should move aft and get the boat level and up to speed before cleaning up the lines. For optimum downwind performance, you'll need to ease the outhaul, Cunningham, and backstay. The crew that hikes the boat flat through every jibe and every puff will be rewarded for their efforts. As long as there's enough pressure, performance is enhanced if the boats are rocked slightly to weather.
Driving now.
Experience shows that once the breeze gets above 20 knots, outside jibes may work out better. Late main jibes are generally better to permit the spinnaker to fill, but the crew must hike the boat flat as soon as possible. And the helmsman must remember to turn back down even as the boom is swinging over. One of the biggest mistakes that trimmers make is oversheeting the spinnaker even as the boat is starting to round up. The trimmer should always be ready to ease a meter or two if the boat feels the slightest bit overloaded. These Swan 42s use a big, very full, masthead asymmetric sail. Be aware that the center of effort moves aft in a hurry if the boat starts to head upwind.
20 knots of breeze, guys.
Always head down in a puff when sailing downwind. And conversely, when sailing upwind, head up in the puff. In stronger breeze, do not ease the backstay fully when sailing downwind. With such a big masthead spinnaker, there is substantial load on the shrouds. It's better for the boat and rig if the backstay is snugged up a little. Also, in the heavier air, keeping the vang eased will make a broach less likely. Some boats will use the jib halyard to pull or rake the rig forward while sailing downwind, but in no cases should the headstay be floppy. Some crews find that even in lighter air, the driver and tactician are happier if the backstay is not flopping around, as this makes the boat feel slow. In Swan 42 class racing, the leeward mark represents some special challenges. This is where contact between boats seems to happen most often.
Come down!
Before you start the rounding, many crews will retension the outhaul and Cunningham in preparation for the next upwind leg. Once you head back upwind, these adjustments will be more difficult with the mainsail fully loaded. As boats converge at the mark on opposite jibes, it's important to remember that the sprit extends 6 feet out in front of each boat. This creates the potential for contact between boats.
Let's go for it, guys. Get it down. Swag.
Adding to the challenge is the large and towering spinnaker that reduces the helmsman's visibility.
All right, now up.
Depending upon which gate you go around, you may need to be prepared to do a windward takedown with a swaggle so that the chute falls cleanly on the foredeck. This move means coming in a little hot and high of the mark, with pace, and then turning more downwind, so as to unload the spinnaker and making it so you are more in control. Class rules stipulate that the sprit must be retracted as soon as possible after rounding the leeward mark. As the boat is rounding the leeward mark, there will be a lot of mainsail to trim in. A crewman at the mast can haul in the windward main sheet as the boat is rounding. This will greatly assist the main trimmer in getting the sail in quickly. The tactician can also help double winch the main. As you settle in upwind, remember to reset the vang and backstay as necessary. A rough guide to backstay tension is 10 bar per knot of wind speed. This is neither linear nor absolute, but is a good starting point. You must be aware that 220 bar is the absolute maximum. Tension beyond 220 has the potential to damage the mast and boat, and you'll get excessive overbend wrinkles in the mainsail and will lose power and pointing ability. In addition to the suggestions mentioned over the last few minutes, it's good to keep in mind some of the other factors that will impact your performance.
Australia's going for the right-hand side. I want to do the same thing.
Smart tactics,
Trim, 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 trim.
good sail trim,
2 up.
crew placement,
Is there more breeze overhead, man? Do you see anything?
and the ability to adapt to changing conditions all will have an impact on the boat's performance. Racing in a Swan 42 will provide you with a fast, fun, competitive sailing platform that performs well in a wide range of conditions.
More pressure coming in.
By
200
taking these
yards.
performance tips into consideration, you'll be adding a competitive advantage to your team's potential success.